genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Now, I wanted to do something outrageous, and it felt really good to be needed, to be trusted. It's just, there's so much I want to do with this life, and it feels like I haven't done any of it. You know? The sand is running out of the hourglass, and I want to look back and say, see, I did that. That was me. I did this podcast. I was reckless on the podcast, I was wild on the podcast, and I fucking did this podcast. Obviously, I'm referring to remaking True Lies. So, WGA Award-winning writer Micki Boden, is True Lies a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It is a movie that has been remade. There was a TV show that came out that no one heard of, which was wild because I hadn't heard of this movie for years and years of my life. I think it will be remade as well. Probably. I think it is such a fun comedy. It's the last time James Cameron had a personality when making a movie. And then I think people are going to keep going back to that well.
Yeah, because you don't think of this movie as being a James Cameron movie. But yeah, every time you say that, I'm like, oh, right, James Cameron.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Titanic. There's nobody blue in the movie. There's no obtainium or unobtainium or whatever happens in those films.
He didn't walk in, write True Lie, $sign afterwards.
It's not in papyrus font.
No.
Shook.
But yeah, no. So I also watched this movie for the first time this week. It was one of those things I was kind of vaguely aware of, but in my head, the poster I was thinking of was Woody Harrelson, not Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I know is a movie poster, but now I don't know what movie that is.
It could be any movie.
It could be any movie. But thank you so much for being my guest today.
Of course.
So for people who don't immediately recognize your voice, Micki, who are you?
As you so succinctly said, I'm a WGA award-winning writer. That's recent. Yay! Just went on the resume. Thank you. I'm a game show writer. I am a movie fan who hasn't seen very many movies. I kind of discover things when a friend or a loved one puts something on, or when I get gaslit by family members saying, oh, you haven't seen this? And I say, well, no, you were my parent. You were supposed to show me this movie, which has happened for dozens of movies, including True Lies.
That's very relatable.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you for making me get introduced to this movie as well.
Of course.
This was fun. It's hard for there to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that isn't fun. It's hard for there to be a Jamie Lee Curtis movie that isn't fun.
Hard agree. Yeah, this is one of those movies that I recommend going in not knowing anything about, because the movie starts off and you kind of get little glimmers of what it is. Like, there's this one scene in the beginning where Arnold is running away from people pursuing him, and there's two dogs, and he knocks their heads together.
That was crazy.
And I cracked up, and I felt a little bit gaslit of, wait, was that supposed to be funny, or am I just reacting to something?
I think it was supposed to be funny. So this movie started, again, I went in knowing nothing, and I was like, wait, is this what the Rainier Wolfcastle movie in Simpsons is based on? Because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger doing, like, James Bond shit, creeping into this, like, party with all these rich people to do spy shenanigans. I'm like, are we doing Arnold Schwarzenegger James Bond? That sounds fun. I'm in for that.
And then the movie just keeps taking twists and turns. And by the time you realize what the movie is, it's already in Act 2.
I would say that's pretty solidly Act 1 of the movie. Mm-hmm. Act 2 of the movie is different. But, like, yeah, so... Okay, so Act 1 of the movie. We're starting, Arnold Schwarzenegger goes into this party. He's got two dudes in the truck, and he goes and gets information and is like, oh, man, these oil billionaires, they're probably bad guys, right?
I mean, that's the strange part of the movie for me, is, you know, I can't tell whose team I'm on right away. You know, you have the American who blows up a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you have people pursuing, you know, fine art and dabbling with history. And I'm like, ooh, this is a tough one.
It's one of those moments where, like, you'll have a bad guy, like, really leaning into, like, this is an important thing. This is great. I really support this. And then you get to the end of the movie and they're like, whatever, blow it up.
Right.
And you're like, wait, no, that was art. You just told us about why it's art.
No, and Tia Carrere kind of does one of those, she's like Ilsa in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, where she's like, I love this, but I'm going to work with the bad guys and I'm going to get really sad when they destroy what I love. And I'm like, babe, you gotta choose a team.
I mean, more so like, it felt like her character name was Juno, I believe.
Yeah.
Or was like, she literally said was like, oh, great. Yeah, no, I'm just here to get rich. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so.
She had so much depth.
She was really interesting. Like, if we're going to be, like, gender swapping anything, like, there's a lot of potential to make her be the big bad.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make a lot of suggestions about completely changing around what the big bad is.
Yes, please.
But we'll get to that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the movie as it exists. So basically, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger doing James Bond stuff.
Yes.
Then what happens?
And then you meet his wife, the beautiful Jamie Lee Curtis, who is not allowed to be beautiful for the first half of this movie.
She is not.
There is so much chemistry between them, and it feels painfully suppressed for the first few scenes that they have together. You know, he's lying to her about working as a boring computer salesman, and somehow her 7-foot-tall Austrian husband is totally unconvincing as a dork. Yeah. I don't know how that flew.
It's a little bit of the syndrome that came up when I remade Terminator for episode 100, where the concept of a Terminator is...
Did you make him the governor of California?
No. The concept of the Terminator is that they're supposed to be infiltration machines. They're supposed to blend in with everybody, and then you cast the most noticeable human being that's ever lived.
Yes.
And it's like, well, you're not infiltrating anything, buddy.
No.
We can clearly tell that you're the robot.
Yes.
We can look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and be like, you're not in computer science.
No. He's super buff. He's a little funny, but also very stiff.
Yeah.
It's great. And then you have Eliza Dushku as a young
realize that that's who that was until I was looking at the IMDb, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize she started this young.
Yes.
And arguably the only true hero of this movie.
See, we'll get to it. I could have done without her. I thought she was painfully unlikable, although I did love that she was stealing from her dad.
Yeah.
Riding a motorcycle, although she seemed about 12 years old to me. I couldn't quite place where she was. I couldn't figure out her age. Yeah.
And she has the Eliza Dushku problem of, like, having been pretty her entire life. So it's, like, it's hard to, like, gauge age when you don't have someone who's a child look like a child.
Yeah. And I don't know how the baby propagation machine works, but I didn't realize Jamie plus Arnold equals Eliza. I didn't see it. The family got tinier and tinier as they went along.
True. Well, you know what? Hollywood make Hollywood.
Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, so what ends up happening is we realize that Arnold's kind of neglecting his family because he's off having all these adventures because, oh my god, it's so fun being a spy. And for some reason, Eliza Dushku and Jamie Lee Curtis feel neglected. Yeah,
it's very odd to me that they just suspect nothing going on with their dad. You know, somehow a snow globe is supposed to be convincing, you know, his friend coming over. Tom Arnold also very suspicious. Yeah. He also doesn't stick into a room.
This is one of this is the second movie this season where the person I'm expecting to betray them doesn't betray them.
Right. And, you know, there's this cute little moment where Jamie makes a joke about sleeping with the mechanic to get the price knocked down, and Arnold doesn't react at all. And I can't tell if he's being sarcastic because he's Arnold and he's kind of acting, or, you know, they just have an understanding, or he's totally fine with it. It's such a great exposition scene, but it's very odd. And I love that about the movie, at least for the first 2 acts, is that it leans into a lot of discomfort, and it kind of keeps you guessing about what the movie is.
Yeah, it's interesting. So then we find out, like, Arnold is like, I ditched my family on my birthday. They were home to celebrate my birthday. I should probably go meet up with my wife and take her to lunch. Mm-hmm. And he goes in, and she's on the phone with someone named Simon, who she's going to go meet with. Oh my goodness.
Which is incredible. Also a scene where I'm totally not convinced that no one saw 7-foot-tall Arnold.
Who's literally sitting on the other side of her cubicle. And then she walks right past him, but he's just facing the other way.
Yes.
Like, oh, person whose frame is unmistakable.
Yes.
How could it possibly be?
I feel like when Arnold walks into a room, the temperature just changes.
It's got to.
Yeah.
It's when someone that tall and buff walks into anywhere,
I immediately just shrink.
That's how they got that tall.
Yeah.
They're height vampires.
And I love what happens directly after is James Cameron does get a little bit of emotion in there. Arnold is just devastated that he thinks his wife is having an affair.
He's devastated that he thinks his wife is having a secret life he doesn't know about.
Yes.
Let's phrase it that way.
Yes. Great phrasing. I love that he walks out, he stops traffic, he's absolutely shook to his core. And it's amazing because the movie is so male-gazy, and this is the one time where he actually has, like, some sweetness about him that isn't coated in funniness.
Yes and no. He is doing the stereotypical man thing of like, I'm being betrayed by the woman in my life
that
after
I'm
all the
lying
betrayal that I've done to her?
Right.
Oh. And so it's a little bit of that. And we'll get to this, but like, I don't know. It basically, Act 1 of the movie is Arnold Schwarzenegger doing spy shit.
Yes.
And they uncover that there is this, what was it? They're worse than whatever stereotype of Muslim people we have at the time is. They thought they weren't extreme enough, and they stole these atomic warheads.
Yeah, that's the part of the movie that didn't age well to me, because everything that the quote-unquote extremists were saying, America's out there destroying people, there's no accountability, and I'm like, yes, 100%. Thank you for saying it.
It's agree with the message, don't agree with the medium, but
right.
But okay, so that's Act 1 of the movie.
Yeah, and then Act 2 is incredible. So we follow Jamie Lynn to her date, and we find out that the guy that she's almost having an affair with is taking credit for being a secret agent.
He's pretending to be a spy, and she's super into it.
And not only any spy, but a spy who's doing the things that Arnold has been doing.
Because in Act 1 of the movie, Arnold tracks down some of the terrorists, and there's this big showdown, and like the news reports...
At the Marriott Hotel.
Yeah, because no one has cell phones yet, so no one has pictures of it. It's two mystery men on motorcycle and horseback go through
that
Marriott.
That poor horse.
Take motorcycle and horse in elevators to the top, leap off the building, except the horse doesn't leap off the building because the horse isn't an idiot, and then Arnold gets mad at the horse.
Yeah,
which is very funny.
You're right. There is some tenderness, too, with Arnold and the horse. I feel like that relationship didn't get explored enough.
Honestly, bring back the horse.
Yes.
I didn't recast the horse, but I'm assuming you did. And it's
a very aggressive chinchilla this time.
I'm into it. That sounds awesome. Chinchillas are dope. They take dust baths, and it's the cutest fucking thing. But anyway, that's Act 1, and so now Simon is, like, taking credit for, like, he's like, oh, yeah, one of those mysterious guys who drove to the Marriott, that was me. I don't like to talk about it. And Jamie Lee Curtis is like, wow, that sounds so incredible and amazing.
And it's great, too, because Arnold and Tom Arnold are siphoning our government funding to surveil his wife.
Yes, he is stalking his wife using all of his spy techniques and abilities.
Because why can't you just have a conversation with your woman?
God forbid. And it ends up to the point where they bust into the trailer park where I presume Simon lives.
Yeah, a used car salesman living in a trailer because his other place is too hot right now.
Yeah. And they kidnap them both. They emasculate Simon. And then they basically take Jamie Lee Curtis and put her in detentions like, you were working for the bad guy, but now you're going to work for us. And she's like, and like in all this questioning, Arnold's like, but you were having an affair with this guy. She's like, I wasn't having an affair. I just thought he was doing a cool thing and I wanted to help. And
eventually she almost realizes what's happening. She's like, why do you guys keep asking about my intimate life?
Yeah. But then she doesn't. And then she almost busts through the like two-way mirror.
Which is amazing because I didn't know those were breakable glass. And somehow she Freaky Friday'd a big dent in that window.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to be, right? They get broken in enough movies.
I thought so, but...
Don't they get broken in, like, Batman Returns and the X-Men movies? And I think they get broken all the time. It's just glass.
Yeah, but I don't know. She's supposed to be this quiet little housewife.
That's
if
true.
Anyone can break it, it's not who she is in Act 1.
That's true.
But maybe Act 2, Jamie.
But she has this big thing, and they send her on a mission to a hotel, And they basically tell her that she needs to do, like, she has to pretend to be a prostitute, and they send her up to this room to dance for some guy in the shadows, who it turns out to be Arnold.
And I love there, too, that she just doesn't realize that this 7-foot-tall man sulking in the corner playing a tape of French that magically plays at the right spot when he rewinds the cassette is her husband.
Right. But then, like, he has her strip down her underwear, dance for him, lie down on the bed and close her eyes, and then he kisses her, and then is surprised when she hits him over the head with a phone.
Yeah. I have to give Jamie her flowers for being hot in every movie where at least part of her clothes come off. I think we all had a little awakening of, 90s
I don't think there's ever been a moment when Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't hot. Like, that's just who she is as a human being. Mm-hmm. And that's fair. And that's just something that we as a society will have to live with.
With the vase water that she saw in the hallway, just slicking her hair down. Ripping off her dress, and there's no loose threads for some reason. Wild. It's almost as if a costumer made it that way.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you're like, okay. Because, like, this is so specific, but I'm like, I don't think the buttoned-up housewife that you've been selling us would be wearing that particular underwear, but I don't mind.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where I'm like, there were no women working on this movie in a high creative capacity.
No.
Everything was just like, men think that you can rip off your sleeves and it'll magically turn into a tight bodycon dress. And that's not how dresses work, my dudes.
No, it is not. It is one of the more male-gazy movies.
Yes.
I've done a lot of movies in this podcast. This is one of the more male-gazy. Because it is the whole scope of this movie is like, what a man, what a real man. And that's kind of the entire premise of the movie. But then at the hotel, Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnold Schwarzenegger get kidnapped. We're like, oh, right, there were terrorists in this movie. And they've tracked them down, and now they've kidnapped both of them and are bringing them to, I don't know, whatever island they're on. They're
in Florida. They get kidnapped in Florida because there's a truck route. Which I don't know. I haven't been to the Keys. But yeah, so when I saw this movie, just a little sidebar, like I said, I went in knowing completely nothing. My boyfriend said I have to watch this movie, and he loved watching me watch this movie because I had to narrate out loud as I was processing everything. You know, I hear a bang in this one scene as they're on the bed and she realizes it's her husband and is confused. I'm like, oh wait, the real terrorists are here. Yeah. And I love in the first 2 acts of the movie that the movie transforms into so many different films. And also just gets really stereotypical and silly in terms of male tropes. Like, I love that the guy who's lying to her is a used car salesman.
Yep.
You know, what was the line that you singled out about her having the ass of a 10-year-old boy? Oh,
yeah. Like, in order to track this down, we find out that Simon is a used car salesman because they do spy shit and track him down to his office after he leaves his lunch with Jamie Lee Curtis. And Arnold shows up and, like, shows interest in one of the cars, and Simon looks out his window and goes, there's a sucker born every minute. And I don't think there's ever been a good person who's ever knowingly said that line.
And he just immediately tells his whole scheme for picking up housewives to this stranger.
Right. And so he's describing, and Arnold's like, I can't do his accent. I bet you were going and... That's a vampire. What was the woman you were with last? He's like, oh man, this woman's so hot, she's got the ass of a 10-year-old boy. And I immediately messaged you and I was like, what?
And I say, just keep watching.
Are 10-year-old boys known for having particularly attractive asses? I don't think so.
I guess if you're James Cameron, I don't know.
That says something. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Like I said, the weird maleness of this movie is very apparent. But anyway, we get to Act 3 and basically...
The movie falls apart.
This is kind of where I thought the most fun of the movie was.
Oh, okay.
Because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, having been revealed as a liar to his wife, is basically having to be cool in front of his wife while he's also, like do hero spy stuff, while also being like, no, baby, I'm sorry, I didn't lie to you our entire relationship and you've never really known the real me. It's fine.
So after they realize that they've been lying to each other, you know, they get kidnapped by the people who are supposed to be the bad guys. And they're both saying, no, they're looking for me. Leave my partner out of this. Mm-hmm. Tia Carrere comes back, you know, kisses Arnold.
Does awesome stuff.
But I feel like the movie just keeps ending over and over in Act 3.
And I didn't get that sense.
So there's this one scene after they intercept the thing, and Tom Arnold comes out. I love that all of the characters in this movie we are only referring to as the actor's name because they're all
real
so
names
iconic.
don't matter.
Except for Simon, the used car salesman.
Correct.
Sorry, Bill Paxton.
Despite the fact that it's Bill Paxton.
Yeah, right. But yeah, there's a scene where there's, a little atomic bomb that goes off in the water and they're kissing because they both did a mission. And the movie could have ended right there.
Except earlier when Arnold and Jamie Lee Curtis are like being sent to the torture chamber and Arnold is being given truth serum, there is a moment where Aziz, the lead bad guy, pulls out Arnold Schwarzenegger's wallet, revealing that this is in fact his wife, pulls out the picture, and we see the picture of him and Jamie Lee Curtis and the daughter.
Oh yeah, because the locket picture that she's wearing isn't enough.
Right.
I love that, they're a couple that wears a locket.
Here's the thing. If I capture a spy, I'm going through the spy's wallet. I'm sorry. That is just the thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't carry that photo around with him.
No, maybe not.
Yeah.
Especially when he's doing spy shit. But yeah, so like, and here's the daughter. So I'm like, it's Chekhov's daughter. It's Schwarzenegger's daughter. So we're going to be seeing, that has to come up some way. Because like, yeah, a nuke went off in Florida and we're like kissing in front of it. And it's like, don't anybody look at it. It's going to be too bright.
Right.
And then Arnold's like, finds out that they have his daughter. He steals a army fighter jet.
Can't fly it. He does the Austin Powers thing of, sorry, I bet that was expensive.
And then can fly it because he learned how to do that 10 years ago and planes are the same.
Right.
Takes off to New York? He takes off to some sort of city.
Skyscraper, USA?
Where we find Eliza Dushku just chilling there while Aziz, the bad guy, is making his big bad guy speech. And at this point, Eliza Dushku doesn't know why she's been kidnapped. She doesn't know anything about her parents. She doesn't know where they are. All she knows is she's been kidnapped, and this terrorist is saying, I'm controlling all these nukes from here. And she steals the key that allows him to control the nukes and runs off.
She's very precocious throughout this whole movie.
But like she is the one person who in this movie, unprompted by anything else, does a true act of heroism that will likely lead to her death. More than anyone else in this movie, Eliza Dushku is a true hero.
Interesting. I was so done with her. Once she started feeding cake batter to the dog, I was like, okay, I don't need this hot married couple to have a kid. No wonder all the romance has gone out and they're lying to each other and Arnold stares her down like a movie poster. In fact, that is the movie poster.
It is, in fact, the movie poster.
I also want to give a shout out to Aziz because he's really funny in this movie.
He does a good job.
He definitely sells it as a bit of a unaware, hilarious bad guy. Like he's doing this wonderful speech and the camera guy's battery dies. Such a 90s problem.
That was great. But it's also...
He's always looking the wrong way and something happens, like Eliza's stealing a key or something gets lost track of.
Yeah.
If he
played any other... The actor's name is Art Malik.
Art Malik! We love you, Art Malik.
And
what has he done since?
Let's find out. The things that are listed as his top credits are True Lies. He's Sir Grimsby in the Little Mermaid movie recently.
What?
He was in the 2010 The Wolf Man. He's in something called The Living Daylights.
Has he been in anything I've watched?
He's in something called Halal Daddy.
Oh. He is a halal daddy in this movie.
He was in the Man Who Fell to Earth series. He was in Homeland, which...
Yeah, I'm sure that was totally unproblematic casting. Yeah.
I think he was in John Carter.
Was he in John Tucker Must Die?
No, I don't think so.
Boo!
He was Sing in The Wolfman, the 2010 Wolfman remake. He was in Sex and the City 2.
Wait, who is he in Sex and the City 2?
Sheikh Khalid.
He is Sheikh Khalid. Have you done Sex and the City 2 on your podcast?
I have not done any of the I have done none of the sexes in the cities.
If you think this movie is cringy, I can't wait till you get a load of the line Lawrence of my labia. Yup. I wish you all could see this face right now.
Oh, that just hit me just right in the forehead. Doing research, pulling up IMDb Pro, and then that's just what happens.
Yep.
But anyway, that's the movie as it exists.
Yes.
What are we going to do about it?
Well, we need to find people who should get Oscar love for this movie. When this movie came out, there was a lot of Oscar buzz for Jamie Lee, and then she didn't get nominated. I think that was the first strike for the Academy to go, oh, we really need to give her an award for something.
And they waited 30 years to do it.
Yeah, it was criminal that you couldn't be funny and win awards for, what, decades?
Yeah, it is true.
Because this is such like a genre blending movie. It is so strongly an action movie and so strongly a comedy movie that I think that has to be preserved.
Things that aren't dramas aren't allowed to win Oscars.
No, you're right.
Someone has to cry once, and no one cries in this movie because they wouldn't be a real man. Oh, that's not true. Simon cries. Simon cries and pees himself because he's the one that's not a real man.
Right. I think it's pretty manly to get a fake gun and Kuwait money and maps of Kuwait and leave it in a briefcase that can easily be picked open.
I think from what we know about men in general, I think that's an incredibly man thing to do.
He worked the system.
And
the women.
Yeah. But yeah, so like the whole concept of it is it's just all male gazy, proto-masculine. The movie that this reminded me of that I've covered on this podcast is Wanted.
Okay. I've never seen it.
Don't.
Okay.
But it's basically just like, this is what a true man, in this situation, this is what a real man would do. So it's like that kind of like attitude.
Right.
And it's probably just me, but I always find that cringy.
It doesn't age well in the movie. There's a lot of lines where I think a bit of a feminine touch, or at least not a super macho touch, would have strongly benefited. Yeah. I think Jamie Lee does get to be a strong female character.
She does.
But it's only through the lens of her husband.
Yeah. It's only after she has literally been objectified.
Right.
And then it's like,
we're not taking that scene out, though. Somebody has to sexy dance with vase water in their hair.
Sure.
To, what is it? It sounds like stock music because the budget clearly went to the Bee Gees song and all the special effects.
Yeah. I feel like, and it wasn't diegetic music. It's not like he's playing music. He just says, dance for me, right?
Do it doucement. He tells her to turn around
in
French.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
The French guy at the intelligence agency is recording his VO and is like, what is this merde?
Yeah, it took me a while to like remember back, like, oh, that's what he was doing.
Right.
That was very silly. I thought he was the one that was speaking into the phone at the time, being like, but no. Anyway.
Yeah, I think there's some, it would benefit from being less white. It would benefit from being less male.
Yes.
I would love if the enemy wasn't so tropey. I especially think now, this stereotype felt played out pre 9/11 when this movie was made. And now I'm really tired of people trying to enemize
So I have a
group
pitch.
of people. Yes, I want to hear it.
So I agree. I think the idea of the brown, therefore bad guy trope is, we should be done with that forever.
Especially since Austrian Arnold's dad was an actual Nazi.
I know, crazy.
Yes.
And I think what the people who really value that are the people who I think would be attempting to do something like this.
Right.
The sort of people who really, like, because if we're being honest, stealing nukes and holding cities hostage in order to get the United States to withdraw from a particular Arab country.
I'm all for that.
What that's going to do is that's just going to make Americans mad and make them attack that particular country. And what often happens is, what I think the people who actually benefit from this are the white people.
Right.
So I feel like the people who are going to be instigating this are the American white Christians pretending to be Arabs to try to get the United States to be like, well, we're going to do a modern crusade. But people aren't going to be on board until they realize what we already know. So in my head, I'm kind of doing a little bit of an Iron Man 3, where I want it to be just the proudest of boys.
Oh.
Doing a terrorism to try to encourage the United States to go to war, because nothing makes a country more Republican and Christian than going to war in the Middle East.
Interesting. So where my mind went with this, and maybe that's just because WWE has never been hotter right now, is I want the coolest, baddest wrestler. And I want just like an individual actor. No group, no nothing. Are you familiar with Roman Reigns? Google him right now.
Here's the thing.
No! Roman's in this movie.
I am friends with so many wrestling fans that yes, I have watched a WrestleMania or two.
He's so beautiful. He's sort of ambiguous. He could be for anyone. He could be, maybe Samoa is evil in this movie. Maybe,
well, here's the thing.
It's a group of...
I don't want to take any minority group.
No, and make them the baddie.
And make them the baddie. Mm-hmm. Because this movie, like, I'm more than happy to have Roman Reigns in this movie.
I mean, he's in it. He could be everyone.
We'll get to
perfect.
That. We're not doing casting yet.
I
know. But the idea is that, like, I don't love the idea of making any minority groups the bad guy. Like, I don't think that plays.
Sure.
I also don't love the super macho masculineness of the movie. Yeah. Because that's also something that those same sorts of groups value. Like, there's the whole... Maggie Mae Fish did a whole series of videos talking about just, like, the... Oh, fuck. Who's the uber Christian guy whose his face saves Christmas?
Not Scrooge.
One of the super Christian thing, and like one of the things they value is like we got to be super hot because that's the thing. It's all about peak performance because like we're in God's image, like one of those sorts of things. And like all the Proud Boys, like they get like it's like the whole incel culture of like I'm ripped. Why wouldn't a woman want this? Like that sort of thing.
Right.
Just the idea of just like this hyper masculine thing, like my Arnold Schwarzenegger type. I made the bad guy. Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I leaned into I mean, mine's white, but, like, leaned into the whole, I'm the big guy. Of course I know what's right. The big, strong guy's always gonna know what's right.
My only thing is, somebody from Hollywood may hear this and may think, oh, let's try this again. Nobody born after the year 2000 has heard of this movie. Nobody watched the show that came out. I don't know.
They did try to do it again. They did it last year. They made a show.
We don't even know what happened with it. I can't tell you a single person who worked on it, where it aired, when it started, when it got canceled. We were also on strike last year.
My understanding is that it was bad.
Yes. But I can't see Hollywood trying to reboot this movie and making the bad guys white. Now, I would love that. I would love an honest...
That's true. But again, this is ideal remake.
Oh, no. And so I'm so all for... Version. I am so all for a white bad guy. I love like an incel world where the people they're attacking are just the worst. Yeah. Because somebody who deserves to get a...
Well, you also get to have the whole Team Rocket aspect of it of like, these pricks are idiots.
Team Rocket?
Yeah.
Love.
It's the idea of the like, the bumbling bad guys.
Yeah, Meowth, that's right.
100%. And you like, the image when the guy is filming... Aziz doing his big speech and the camera runs out of batteries. That's so funny.
It's so funny.
You can do that the whole movie. That sounds amazing. And it's just these like big bumbling idiots just trying their best to like be terrible people while all being manipulated by Juno, the bad guy lady.
Right.
Who she's like, yeah, these guys are idiots, but they'll listen to me. I'm a hot chick. They'll do whatever I say.
I love her character being a bit more empowered. Like the one scene where Aziz comes in and slaps her, I get so uncomfortable.
That was not a good scene.
No, I can't tell who's boss.
Like that scene happened, and I assumed that meant that she was going to be betraying him later.
Right.
Because there's no woman this actualized who's just going to take this.
No, and she has no agency. She just kind of dies in the movie. Everyone else, Jamie Lee Curtis can figure out how to get out of a car, but she can't.
Right. And she just like goes, oh shit, guess I'll die. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And so like, I want her to be manipulating them. And I think that's funnier.
Yeah.
Especially if they're like the bumbling around like, no, we're the big tough bad guys. Sure you are, boys. Yeah, I'll take another $1 million, please.
What would be your means of expounding that dynamic? Like, how would you explain that to an audience quickly?
In terms of, what do you mean?
Like, how do you establish that it's these guys who think they're the actual bad... There's almost like another layer of true lying, of like, these guys think they're the bad guys, but they're really just the marionettes being played by an evil woman.
Well, you get to do it two different ways, because you get to do the Twitter thing where the people like send out their messages like, this is it. This is what we're doing. We're badass and it's awesome. And you get to see that message. And then you cut to them actually having recorded it. And they're sitting in a rec room with a pool table and a bunch of Capri Suns going, yeah, up top. Right. Oh man, that was so sick. You were so scary right now. Like, bro, I nearly fucking wet myself because that was scary as shit.
Well, somebody has to pee their pants in the remake.
Right. And
it's Chekhov's pee pants.
It's Chekhov's urine.
Yeah.
And like you get to do that and then be like, oh man, let's totally get Lady to do that. Yeah, whatever. But then she's the one who's like actually supplying them of like, she's how they got the weapons. She's how they got this. She's how they got that. Like,
she's setting them up to be the fall guys.
Correct.
That also sets you up for an ideal sequel of what if she doesn't get eliminated in this movie and somehow...
Well, we have true lies, truer lies, truest lies.
Too true, too lie.
Too true, too lie. Love it. Exactly. But yeah, like you do it that way of the as presented and then reality.
Mm-hmm. And I think that gives you a very different structure for Act 2 and Act 3 also. Because Act 1 and 2 are kind of very exposition heavy, and then there is some action in them. But Act 3, I feel like, is trying to do so much work in the original movie that it almost that's where I think the movie falls apart, is because I think it's just doing too much. Act 3 almost feels like its own movie.
Yeah, well, I feel like we're talking a lot about Act 1 and Act 3.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about Act 2 at all, because we're not really talking about the hero and the and the
I
lady hero.
love Act 2. I love that it's a used car salesman taking the... What would you make that character in the remake? Because here's where I went, and maybe this is too coastal. I loved the idea of like a stand-up comic or some other just like non-job. I could see some studio being like, oh, he should be a crypto bro. But I think that's too cringy even for me. I just love it. I don't think
they would ever do that because they want to be crypto bros.
Exactly.
Like that wouldn't be the bad guy. That's our hero.
Right.
He's fighting against the system by finding the currency that the government doesn't want you to know about.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, that could be your bad guys too. They're trying to like defraud people.
I mean, literally, they can be taking all the money that they're making from selling nukes and buying NFTs.
Yeah. Oh my god. Ouch. Sorry, I got hit right in the cringe.
Yeah. But yeah, so like so Simon, I didn't know what to do with Simon. I like the idea of him pretending to be the Harry character.
It's amazing.
Because it's like, oh, I was keeping this lie for my wife, but it turns out it's something she's really into. That's fun. I also like the idea of this guy, like, this is the one that I made. Oh, this is the guy that I made my fake Arnold.
Oh, okay.
This is where I would put Roman Reigns.
Yes!
This is where I would say, hey, we have this, like, yeah, of course I'm a big tough guy doing all my action stuff. And then you find out it's like, no, man, I just lift because it's the only way I get women interested in me. I don't have a lot going on personality-wise, but, like, if they just see me and don't try to delve too deep, it's fine.
No, I love the idea of the Arnold character being less assuming physically.
Yeah.
I think that's so much stronger.
Well, it also makes them a spy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the whole concept of, like, pretending to be something you're not and just building your whole personality around it. Those are the people who... I've had conversations with people, I will not name names, and I don't think they listen, but I've had conversations with people where, like, oh, yeah, you're working a lot, but, like, so what do you do outside of work? And then just, like, they really have to think about it, and they go, I like going to the gym. And I'm like, oh, buddy.
Hustle culture, baby.
Yeah, you have no personality. You're not... Have some fun.
Right.
Like, their life is work and gym. And I'm just like, oh, that's sad. Oh, buddy. Which is why I don't think he listens to the podcast. But like that idea of he has nothing else.
Right.
And that's why he has to make up this whole life. He has to steal news articles from the paper to be like, oh yeah, that's what makes me a big, cool man.
I love it.
But there's all that. And so we've still built the whole world around these people. How do you want to do Act 2? How do you want to do Harry tracking them down? Because, like, the way it's going right now is he's, like, gaslighting the shit out of his wife.
Right.
And that's fun in the 90s, but I don't think that works as well now. Like, because it's fun because we're like, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's the 90s. We have that level of disconnect. If it happened now, we'd be like, this is cringy as shit.
Yeah.
I think what it needs to be is I think our Harry character needs to be taking spy jobs he wouldn't normally taking, like the lowest level shitty spy jobs, because it will allow him to also be kind of keeping tabs on his wife. He's like, I don't know, man. What am I supposed to do?
In my version of this movie, I don't want this to be a government agency. Every time something blew up, I was just like, oh, my taxes. I love him as kind of like a freelancer, almost like a bounty hunter, like person for hire. Mm-hmm. Somehow always working for the good guys, quote unquote. But, you know, if he air tags his wife, I think that's about as far as he can surveil her.
I don't think he even needs to do that if Find My Friends is turned on the phone. It's like, oh yeah, no.
A high-octane scene where he goes to his settings, his Find My, and then finds her location.
Yeah, it's great. And, like, you get to do the thing where he's always left his phone at the office.
Right.
But now, for the first time, he's actually taking that phone with, because that's the fake phone that's always at the office when she checks in on him.
Yeah.
Now he's using it to check in on her and
I don't mind him, you know, following in the car.
But what do you want him
mind
to do?
that
Like,
stuff.
you don't want him to be a government... We don't even know what agency he works for, they say repeatedly in the movie.
Right. I do like that vagueness of it, especially because, like I mentioned earlier, I have a real qualm with who the good guys are and who the bad guys are in this movie. I like him being more of an independent for hire type of person.
Who does what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just a really good person on TaskRabbit who...
It's hard to put us in a position
right
where you have this person going after terrorists who stole nuclear bombs outside of government. The only way I think you can get away with that is if you have something like a Kingsman type situation.
Okay.
Where it is, we are not loyal to any government, we're loyal to humanity. Mm-hmm. And we do all of this to make sure, no matter what, humans are always the most important thing, and we're going to do our best to help people.
Oh my god, does he work for PETA?
Fuck no. They're not humanity first.
What?
They're not anybody first.
Right.
They're the worst.
The trope I kept going back to as I was trying to formulate what I would do with this movie, because I did hit some dead ends with this, of the male gaziness is so baked into the movie.
Sure.
But I went back to Daniel Craig's character in Knives Out, where he's kind of like this independent actor, but he does have a sense of justice, you know?
I love that. But the problem is that, like, Daniel Craig in the Knives Out Glass Onion is dealing with small stakes.
Small stakes, yeah. And
so
this has to be big.
This is a national level threat.
Right.
And so, like, I think he needs to have some sort of support because he has the buddy and the tech guy.
Yeah.
And unless they're, like, Charlie's Angels.
Interesting.
Like, you can have him be an international spy that doesn't work for an agency. Like, theoretically, that's what Archer is.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, no, we're independent. You can say, like, here's the thing. This is dumb as hell. You can have them be, for the worst name ever, you can call them the Teslas.
The Teslas!
Because you can be like, oh, Tesla died kind of broke and alone because he never knew how to profit off of his inventions. He never knew to do anything.
Is the bad guy Elon Musk?
I would love that. But the reason why I say that...
Wait, is it Grimes? Is Grimes running the whole thing?
That's very funny. But the reason why... They call themselves that because, oh no, that was all just a cover, and Nikola Tesla was brilliant and actually did monetize, made all this money, put it aside to start this agency to actually protect humanity from people...
And a couple pigeons.
And pigeons. To protect humanity from people like Thomas Edison. The monster.
Yes.
And they had to change their name when Elon Musk fucking made those stupid cars, they say. They're like, well, so now we're the Nikolais.
I love that. I think what doesn't age well for this movie is, you know, I sympathize with all the wrong people in this movie from what the filmmakers wanted. So I almost love that vagueness, that kind of like ambivalence. I think that's what keeps this movie preserved so that nobody has to make it a third time or a fourth time because, you know, the first one in terms of casting is pretty stacked and shouldn't need to be touched, except for the fact that James Cameron just Cameroned it up.
Yeah.
And that it's really hard for people who have seen this movie and rewatch it. There's kind of a sense of like, oh, I remember that being better than it was. And I want people to find this amazing plot twist of a movie and just go, oh, it's perfect. We don't need to touch it.
Exactly. And I like the idea of...
The Teslas.
Like, the Teslas, and they had to change their name to the Nikolais because they're like, fuck. Or they're just like, yeah, I mean, we used to work with the government, and then the FBI did some stuff in Venezuela, and now we feel like being independent's a little bit better.
I love that.
And, like, just one of those kind of thing. Like, especially when you have your Harry on his truth serum being like, yeah, no, this is where we're from. I mean, like, the government's terrible, but people still need help from, like, super spies because there's all this stuff that the government doesn't actually want to deal with because they're too busy sucking billionaires' cocks or whatever.
Can I just say, I love that this doctor, this very scary, ominous doctor, gives him a normal human dose of truth serum, leaves for clearly far too long. The truth serum starts working almost immediately. Jamie Lee's voice gets all distorted, and the doctor comes back, 40 minutes later?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you had your moment with your wife where all of that script stuff happened?
Right.
All right.
And then everyone dies.
Yeah, which was great. That was genuinely an awesome scene.
Yes. Oh, it was so good.
But, like, yeah, so, I think it's funnier if the doctor's there the whole time taking down notes on all of this, finding out everything about the organization, but he's not telling the doctor, he's telling the wife.
Yeah.
And then...
Or it's like these incel-y guys who don't know what to do with this information.
Exactly.
They've truth serumed him, and now what?
Yeah,
it's like, they can't kill someone.
I looked up the recipe for truth serum on the internet, but, like, I didn't think it would work, bro. What do we do? I don't know, man. Let's go ask the boss. Like that.
I love it. Yeah, I love the idiocy of...
What else are we missing for plot of the movie before we get into casting? Is there anything we're missing in terms of, like, the story of the movie? Like, we kind of jumped around.
Yeah.
But we kind of know what we're doing Act 1. We kind of know what we're doing Act 3. Oh,
and I think
are we having the daughter?
I don't want the daughter. I think it just, at least in the original, it makes it go on way too long. I think if there's a world where... we have a badass female, maybe things run a little bit more on schedule and we can shave 45 minutes out of this movie and we still have time for this daughter, the one person with agency, to still be in this movie. It just felt like such an afterthought beforehand. But if you feel strongly about
daughter,
right, what are the stakes?
How does the movie end?
They defeat the bad guys.
So what I think we can do is something that I've seen happen. I mean, we do an Incredibles where we beat...
They monologue?
No, we beat what we perceive as this big, awesome thing. We stop a bomb from going off in Florida. Oh my God, we won.
Right.
Where's Juno?
Okay.
And then you have this big, badass lady who's like, oh no, they know who I am. I need to protect myself.
Until the sequel.
Yeah, or it doesn't even have to be Juno. It can be whatever we name the Aziz character of, like, oh no, man, shit, oh fuck, the bomb didn't go off and they know who we are. Oh man, they're totally gonna dox us, man. Well, we're not if we dox them first.
It's so hard for me as a viewer to see a giant nuclear bomb go off and then still have to be, like, I'm exhausted at that point.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm for a daughter,
Yeah, so, but it's a thing that they did at the end of The Incredibles where, like, they beat the big robot. They have this big family moment.
Yeah.
And then you realize the baby's still at home.
Right.
And Syndrome goes and kidnaps the baby, and it's this big moment where the baby's like, no, I'm fucking badass too, and basically kills Syndrome. Yeah. And it's dope. But, like, that sort of thing where Eliza Dushku is baby, is what I'm saying. Eliza Dushku is Jack.
Yeah.
And you get to have that moment of... the big bad guy in an act of true desperation goes, shit, everything's fucked, man. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll tell you what we're going to do. He fucked up my plan. I'm going to go fuck up his plan.
Right.
Okay, cool. You kidnapped my daughter. Now what? You're going to do what I say.
I could see these villains being more like, we emptied your bank accounts. Take that.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like something competent to do.
Right.
I feel like going and kidnapping the daughter is the stupid thing to do, because what the hell are you going to do? Now you have a daughter there who can kick your fucking ass, you dweebs.
Yeah.
Because I also get to have that extra moment of, like, these fucking idiots. And then, like, obviously Harry taught his daughter to defend herself, and she literally just kicks their fucking ass. Mm-hmm. And it's just this extra of, like, hell yeah, end of movie.
Yeah, it's maybe you've kind of shifted my view on this daughter a little. She's the one, like, hardcore lady.
The one true hero of the original movie.
Right.
Like, it's Harry's job. Helen does it because, like, she has to because she's there and, like, all of that. And, they know who the heroes and the bad guys are, and they're doing, like, the crazy things. Dana knows none of that, and she's still a hero.
Yeah. Dana. I love the names in this movie.
They're
classique.
Yes. But yeah, okay.
So who's your cast?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about Harry. I agree with you that it needs to be not as large a gentleman.
Right.
I still wanted someone who's funny, but also kind of would run down. And I would also see someone being like, but I need to go do the... Someone who kind of like spans the gamut of non-problematic male leads.
Yes. My vetting process in my head was, who's a non-funny person that's been on SNL and blew me away? Because you need someone who has levels of funny, but is more unassuming so that they have this reveal.
For sure. So I presume that means you went with Ryan Gosling.
No, I went with Daniel Kaluuya because he is such a great actor.
That is good.
I loved his SNL performance. He had this one sketch where he's planning this Mother's Day retreat thing where I'm just in tears laughing every time I see it. But he's also, he has so many levels as an actor.
Yeah, he's great.
And he can also, he can be British. He can be American. I love it all.
He might speak another language and we would believe it.
Right.
As opposed to Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're like, you don't speak that.
No. Everything's just Austrian, sir.
Yeah. That's good. I went with the lead of Dungeons & Dragons, and he was in various Star Treks. I went with Chris Pine.
Oh, Berkeley grad. I went to Cal. Go Bears.
Okay.
I'm very proud of him.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted
That's a great one.
Because, that's the right vibe. Because, you get to have both. Where you get to have, he's, doing the suave, yeah, I'm Chris Pine stuff. And then you get to have him being, whatever he's doing in that latest movie with all the trailers that are coming out, where he's just yeah, fuck, man, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he does have both levels pretty strongly.
He is one of the rare he's one of the rare leading man actors who does occasionally get to be a character actor. Which only happens at the end of the career as opposed to in the middle.
Yeah. I do like that we both skewed younger with our male actors, because Arnold feels... I can't tell how old he is, but
Chris
he feels...
Pine's early 40s.
But he comes across as younger. Arnold feels like he's already 60 in this movie.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that impression.
He strikes me as somebody who's already lived a full life.
For sure. Okay. But yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know who we'll go with. Those are both good. Let's move on to Helen. Who did you have for your Helen?
Okay, kind of off the cuff. Maybe because I just watched Cruel Intentions. I love someone who was hot, but we all kind of forgot about for a second. So I went with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Wow, okay.
Because I think you need kind of I don't know. I think you need a little bit of a nostalgic hottie for this. Somebody who's, could be a housewife, could be an agent type of person.
That's an interesting choice.
But also, this is why you do the podcast and I don't. I'm just who would I see in a movie?
I mean, I feel like she is very much... I feel like she would get picked for this movie.
Yes.
And I think in this movie, she would very easily be paired with Chris Pine.
Yes. I think their chemistry would be electric.
Yes. But that's not who I picked.
Who did you pick?
I wanted someone who's funny.
Okay.
I wanted someone who's done all sorts of comedy stuff. And in the latest season of her show, The After Party, attempted to do some spy shenanigans.
Oh.
I went with Zoe Chow.
Yes. That's a fun one.
And because I think that she's funny, but she can also be bumbling and hapless and be a good foil to be a good foil of incompetence until she's hyper competent.
Yeah.
To whomever we cast as the lead. And I just think she'd be really funny. We'd believe her as the housewife.
Yeah.
And then we believe her when she gets super sexy and kicks ass.
Did you see The Farewell?
I did not.
I almost went with Aquafina. I'm obsessed with Nora Lum, and every time my mind wanders, I always wonder if there's something I could put her in. Because I think she spans all the levels, too.
She does. She gets called out on this podcast so often.
Yeah. So she was on my list. I deleted her. I put her back. I deleted her again. I had Kristen Wiig on for a second. I took her off just to go to Wonder Woman 84. I was she was the only character I liked in that movie and just got nothing. Because she was a hottie.
Sure, but that's not really relevant to the character.
That's fair. I thought she would have been a convincing bad guy if anything about that movie was good.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. I wanted levels.
I wanted that movie to be good so badly.
Oh, I knew it wouldn't be. What else can we do except watch it for Christmas?
And so you didn't have anyone for Dana.
I did not have anyone for Dana.
So let's go with my Helen let's go with Zoe Chow as our Helen.
Yeah.
Because my Dana, I cast as, I found her on a list of various young teenage actresses.
Did you put young Sheldon in there?
No. Why would I do
know
that?
no other child actors.
So I've said this before in the podcast and I'll say it every time. Like, if I'm not on a list for the kind of research I'm doing for this, that is a failure of government because I should be on a list because I'm literally researching children. It's a problem. And like, I found this, like, she's kind of on her way up. She hasn't had any major roles, but like, she had something called The Search for Santa Paws. She was in something called Smart Cookies.
Booked.
It's a young actress named Melody B. Choi.
Okay.
So I thought that she would be very fun.
I want to see if I've seen her in everything before.
Probably not. But she looks like she could be Zoe Chow's daughter. So I was like, okay, great.
Yeah. She's 22, though.
She's 22?
Yes.
I thought she was 14.
So that...
I was so proud of myself. Fuck.
No, I know. I want like a young... I almost want like someone who's actually 12. Because again, I can't tell who...
I spent 45 minutes trying to find an actual 12-year-old. This is
why the government's not coming after you, is because everyone is of age.
I was so proud of myself that I found someone who was perfect. And she's 23.
Yeah.
Shit. Oh. I got misled by something lied to me because I did the math and they were like, oh yeah, no, she was born in 2008. I was like, oh great. Nope. Okay. Fuck.
I guess we can't have the daughter in the remake.
We'll just have to actually use casting to do their job and find someone amazing.
Yeah, we'll find a breakout star.
Exactly. Damn. Okay. Who'd you have for Gib? Oh, yeah, the buddy. The like, hey, I'm the guy who's always in the truck. I've been in the truck for 15 years. I want to go do the thing. Who'd you have for your Gib?
Okay, mine is really stupid.
That's fine.
Influenced by current events.
Sure.
I had Kato Kaelin. I want people talking about the movie.
Kato Kaelin?
So he was the guy that lived at OJ's house and was like thrown into the trial. No? Okay, fine. Who was yours?
I've never heard of this person ever.
What? We'll go back and we rewatch everything that happened with OJ.
We're not gonna... No.
No? Fine.
Like, no. Here, the guy that I have to play the buddy, he's a great buddy. I love him. He's very funny. I first saw him in Pitch Perfect.
Okay.
He's the husband in Ghosts, the American version of Ghosts. He's an actor named Utkarsh Ambudkar.
Oh, he's great.
He's great.
He would be fun.
He would be really fun. He's like great, being like, nah, man, you can do this. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You know, an actor.
I think Kato Kaelin would be great.
No. All right, let me tell you. So we haven't talked about this next character at all. But there was a tech guy who is like the new guy on the team. He does tech for Gib and Harry. And then when they're going and doing, like, trying to go and in Act 3 break into where the bad guys are doing stuff, he's secretly the camera guy who is doing spy stuff on his own and is secretly super badass, but you think he's just the tech guy, and then he does this cool badass stuff, and it's awesome. I went with an actress. I gender swapped this character.
Oh, okay.
She's had bit parts on NCIS and Side Hustle and Hacks.
Yeah.
But what we've seen her in, what she did great in, was Jury Duty.
Okay.
You know, blending in and not letting anyone know what she's really about.
Totally.
Her name is Cassandra Blair.
Let me see. She sounds so familiar. I had Kate Berlant. I also gender swapped her.
Good.
I wanted someone who could be funny and a little bit scene steely, but not override the whole movie.
So in Jury Duty, Cassandra Blair she's kind of the straight character of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But like she's chill, but she's like, no, we're doing crazy shit right now.
I boycotted that show.
Did you?
I did a talk show for Kirk Fox 10 years ago, and I can't watch anything else he's in.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
He played Plumber Joe on Parks and Rec.
Oh, okay, got it. That guy.
Yeah.
He was the other one. He was
lovely. I just can't watch him in anything because I had to buy teeth for people on his talk show.
Wild. Like, he was the one person who I was like, yeah, obviously we recognize fucking James Marsden. I've seen this guy in so many things. How is he not recognized? Okay, whatever.
Right. I need to watch Jury Duty, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know that I've seen... Oh, she's on the American Taskmaster.
Oh.
She did not do well on that.
No.
Ooh. We can come back to this one, too. I mean, I'm happy to give you Kate Berlant if that's who you want.
I love her. Are you an I Think You Should Leave fan?
No.
So there's this one sketch on I Think You Should Leave where she's like, we have to host the intervention at my house. I have a huge party house, and it's a Garfield-themed house where you sit on the chair and like the tongue pops out. And she plays it so straight, but she's so good in situational comedy.
I am not an awkward comedy guy.
No!
That stuff makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, I lean in.
Okay. And so I've gotten more people than you, so I'm happy to give you Daniel Kaluuya. We'll do Kate Berlant.
Oh, wow. But I love Chris Pine. I'm fine with either.
Okay.
They can both play both ways. Yeah.
We can come back to that and see how we deal with the vibe of the show.
Yeah.
Who did you have for Juno, the bad lady?
The bad lady. So I loved the way that you developed this out, and I didn't actually have someone for her.
Okay. So I wanted someone who, obviously gorgeous.
Yeah, you tell me who you want and I'll improve on it.
And has played a very specific type of character, and I would like her to start as that character, and then we learn that she's really the one manipulating everything.
Yeah.
And she hasn't done a lot recently, which I think is a shame, because I think Naomi Scott's awesome.
Oh, interesting.
And, like, for people who don't know, she was the Pink Ranger in that Power Rangers reboot. She was Jasmine in the new Aladdin movie, and then she's great in the new Charlie's Angels movie, which is awesome. But yeah, Naomi Scott's great.
Is there a world where you want that person to be, like, a Jamie Lee Curtis? Like, how do you want to work the original cast in at all?
I'm not, ever.
Ever?
I can't do that anymore.
I think they need to have little cameos in this. Like, I think
Again,
the friend who says somebody's calling, like, I think that could be Jamie Lee. I think the boss with the eye patch could be Arnold.
So
you want them gone.
Here's the thing.
Totally
like I said,
universe.
I did that the first 2, maybe 3 seasons of the show, but it has become too problematic to force the original cast in.
Sure, okay.
Because there's timeline stuff and all these other things going on. Because then in that case, do we address the fact that a nuke went off?
Right.
In the Florida Keys 30 years ago? Mm-hmm. Like, if the more we try to put in characters from the original, that makes this a sequel.
Right.
And I'm not doing sequels. I'm doing remakes.
Right.
And I want it to be a clean break because that way we can shit on original characters.
Yeah.
And or revise them or drop them completely. And because theoretically, we're still casting a Harry. We're still casting a Helen. We're not renaming them.
Yeah.
It is a remake, and if the characters exist, then it's just how is this happening a second time?
It's just my tendency is to try to give a little wink nudge.
That was my tendency too, but I have unfortunately had to not let that happen anymore. As good as Jamie Lee Curtis would be.
No, you're right. She's gone.
And so...
Can she do a DVD commentary that no one ever listens
I think that
to?
should happen.
Okay.
I think that would be fun if they did like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 where both casts are watching both movies.
Yes,
that would be fun. So then I also have a leader of the bad guys. My replacement for the Aziz. My like Proud Boys lead boy.
Yeah.
Did you have someone for that role?
Well, mine wasn't a Proud Boy lead boy, so I want to hear yours. And
my Proud Boy lead boy, someone who can be just like this shitty little white boy who's just like, no, I'm a nice guy. I'm doing this for the people. The ultimate nice guy.
Yeah.
Josh Hutcherson.
Oh.
Who's like, yeah, no, I'm just a nice guy. Who, according to all reports, is genuinely a decent dude. But like, Peter Millark is like, yeah, no, I'm just a nice guy. Just like one of those.
Well, see, I know I've never heard of this guy. It's because I can't watch The Hunger Games.
He was also in that Hulu show Future Man.
Never heard of it.
In the new movie Beekeeper, he's the bad guy. You can look him up.
Okay. I've heard of Beekeeper.
You'll have seen his face.
Yeah.
When I got the idea for doing this as like little Proud Boys, I was like, great, I think we can do that.
Is there a world where you would do Paul Walter Hauser?
I don't know who that is.
You've seen him before. So he was in that Atlanta movie where like the bomb goes off. And he's like stopping it from happening. Yeah. I think he plays.
I mean, as long as you're casting people from After Party.
Yeah.
But did you have someone for this role? Or are you riffing right now?
I thought of it right now as we were describing through.
I
feel like we've evolved.
Yeah. He's great. I do love Paul Walter Hauser. I'm happy to go with Paul Walter Hauser.
I do love this movie being a not like a who's who, but like oh, I know who they are, but I don't know their name, because it's so hard with the original that everyone is a name.
Yeah. Which you saw on my cheat sheet. I'm like, I try not to make it all A-list.
Yeah.
And Josh Hutcherson is certainly more A-list than Paul Walter Hauser, and I love Paul Walter Hauser.
Yeah.
Let's go with Paul Walter Hauser.
Yeah.
That brings me to Simon, who we already know is going to be Roman Reigns.
So for my concept of this movie, I actually had that character be female. I loved the Helen character having an affair with a woman.
I think that's fun too.
So I wrote down Chloe Fineman from SNL. She's the one that does all of the accents amazingly well. Like, she does the Britney Spears impression. I watch a lot of SNL, not just because we're recording on a Sunday morning, but she's so good at like transforming into all of these accents. I just wanted someone who could kind of evolve and be, be almost convincing, and then once you talk to them, the lie falls apart. I am happy to not have it be her. I love it being Roman Reigns.
Yeah, So my casting for this role is a character who I also know from Ghosts. He's the one who plays the big, the character's
guy.
name is Thor.
Yeah.
The actor's name is Devin Chandler Long.
Yeah,
because
he's
in my
great.
head I was like, put the Arnold character here. Of like, I make myself a big man, but I'm not.
My first version of this write-up was everyone was just a wrestler, and I had to pull everyone out.
Yeah. I think it's funnier if we have...
We could be Roman Reigns' first Hollywood foray.
And I think making him be funny, I think would be great. I think that should be... If we're going to be using Roman Reigns, I think this is the
Put
place
him
for
in!
him. Great. So that's our cast.
Yeah.
Unless... So...
I also...
So
there needs to be chemistry testing for these people, because if anyone doesn't fit together, the whole thing falls apart.
Well, then that brings us back to Harry.
Yes.
Daniel Kaluuya, Chris Pine. If we're doing the math, you've currently gotten 4 and I've gotten 3.
Oh my gosh.
No. I'm sorry. I yeah. This would be a flip either way.
Does me murdering the daughter off count as...
I still think we'll have the daughter, but it'll be someone that we cast. I mean, like, who do you think fits the vibe of the movie that we're making? Do we want it to be Daniel Kaluuya? Do we want it to be Chris Pine?
I don't know. This is why you said to have one person, because we'll go back and forth.
Yeah,
and I feel so strongly about Daniel, but I also feel so strongly about Chris
Pine. We'll take
Pine.
Daniel Kaluuya. That's fine. Yeah. I'm sure he'll be great.
There's a whole audience of people who I don't think know he's funny yet.
That's a shame.
I know.
Okay. So then let's talk about writer and director. I have a writing directing team.
Okay.
Who do you have separate writer director, or do you have a hyphen it?
I have separate.
Okay. So why don't you tell me about your writer, then I'll tell you about my team, and then you'll tell me about your director.
I'm writing the movie.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's my pitch.
Oh, okay.
Now, who do you have writing?
I gotta put that on the cheat sheet.
Don't have it be me.
Yeah, because I get a lot of writers to do this.
Yeah. I need my pension, my dude.
We're producing this.
Yeah.
We're making the big money.
I think producers make money.
No, I don't know. I think producers for movies make money.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So the team that I had, I kind of wanted comedy action.
Yeah.
And I wanted people who've done good comedy action. I use these guys at least once a season because they're great and I love their movies. They did Game Night. They did the new Dungeons & Dragons movie. They did Spider-Man Homecoming. It's John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein.
Okay.
And they're a writer-director team.
Yeah.
And so I thought they would be good for this.
Have you watched any of the new show, The Sympathizer?
I am not aware of this show.
Okay, so it's a Pulitzer Prize-winning book. It's fabulous. There was a director I hadn't heard of before I watched the show, whose name is Park Chan-wook. He has such a way with the cinematography that I love. I love maybe having a comedy writer and maybe more of an action director, and letting those worlds kind of juxtapose themselves.
I think that's correct. I think that is... I think that's good instinct.
Yeah.
What else has Park Chan-wook done? Because I don't know The Sympathizer.
Oh my gosh. I hadn't heard of anything else that he'd done, but he's one of those people that I have to now see anything. Have you seen The Handmaiden?
No. I heard that it was good.
Yeah.
So he's the action director.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to have him as be our action director. I don't know anything about him, but that doesn't...
Yeah.
That's not a...
Sure.
That's not a barrier to competency.
All right. Well, wait. So who is your writer again, or your writers?
It's a writer-director team. So John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein write and then direct the movies.
Okay.
But I'm perfectly happy to have them write this and then hand it off to Park Chan-wook to direct.
Yeah. Is there a world where there's like I can't pitch my friends for this, can I? Do you know anything about the work of Chris Roach?
The guy who went to San Diego and opened a meadery?
No. He wrote this movie called Truth or Dare. He wrote a Liam Neeson movie called Nonstop. He also works at Big Brother, which is how I know him. And he is such a fun balance of writing and producing.
13th Floor, Truth or Dare, Fantasy Island, Nonstop. Yeah. He just happens to have the exact same name of someone who I used to work with.
At a meadery.
Well, he works at a meadery now. He used to be a crew guy in LA.
Right.
And then he went
Since
to...
I have to pick someone who's not myself. So we are just doing all the work for someone else to come in and register the script.
So, like...
I know. I get that. I get it.
I would love to pitch myself as the writer for every single one of these movies. But I'm a writer, too. And I can't do that.
No!
Because otherwise it'd be, like, the same thing every episode. And it's like... Because I like highlighting other writers out there. And obviously I'm doing big names this time. But I love when someone comes in with Park Chan-wook and you just be like, hey, this amazing person.
I highly recommend the show. Robert Downey Jr. basically plays every white person in the show in some sort of like costume, caricature, voiceification. Because it's through the lens of the main character who just sees every white person as kind of the same, as antagonizing them in a similar way.
What show is this?
The Sympathizer.
This is The Sympathizer.
Which just came out. You got to read the book and then you got to watch the show. But I thought it was genius, and that was the director's call. And I think there's some sort of nuggets there, too, that could be sprinkled in. Like, maybe there's something in the world of our casting, our scene work that the director can add.
I would hope the director brings lots of things.
Yeah.
That's why you get a director.
Yeah.
I did a whole thesis in college about doing a play without a director. And I love the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, the orchestra without a conductor.
Yes.
But theoretically, you have a director because they bring something to it.
Yeah. You would be surprised how often that does not happen, though.
Oh, no, I'm aware. But yeah, okay. So that is True Lies. Let me take you through our cast.
Yeah.
Harry is going to be played by Daniel Kaluuya. Helen will be Zoe Chow. Dana will be someone that casting finds, an actual teenager. Gib will be Utkarsh Ambudkar. Fasil will be Kate Berlant. Juno will be Naomi Scott. Aziz, or whatever we name the character, will be Paul Walter Hauser.
Yeah, I don't think Aziz...
Well, he'll probably call himself Aziz.
Toby.
Aziz will probably be will be what he calls himself, but it will be Paul Walter Hauser. Simon will be Roman Reigns. All this will be written by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, and then directed by Park Chan-wook.
Yes,
that is True Lies. Micki, you gonna go watch this movie?
I have to now. I'm going to watch it like 8 times. I'm going to see it in theaters. I'm going to stream it. I'm going to buy it for $4.99 and then I'll watch it again.
Perfect.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for being my guest on this episode. Now's the time. The episode's over. Do plugs. What do you want people to do? What do you want them to watch? What do you want them to follow on the internet?
If you could please watch The Chase on Hulu, the recently WGA Award-winning show. Yay! I would love some residues. If you also want to watch...
Now that we get those for streaming.
I get a $42 check.
Hell yeah.
Wah, wah. If you also want to watch The Floor on Fox, if you're not already, you can play What's That with Rob Lowe and see if you like it or not.
Fair. Cool. Any social medias you want people to follow? Or nah?
I'm at Mickified on everything. Mikified.
Perfect. If you want to follow me, the podcast is on Instagram at Ideal Remake, or you can find me on BlueSky at Sam Gasch, SamGasch. Or if you want to talk about True Lies or tell us what your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is, you can go on the Dueling Genre Discord, which has a link in the show notes. But yeah, that's our remake of True Lies.
I think it's very ideal, don't you?
We will end this episode the same way we end every episode. Micki, what is your favorite quote from the movie True Lies?
Oh my gosh, there's so many running through my head now. I just want the scene at the end where he's going, guys, come on, we don't have time to tango.